Alright, I think it should be working now. Okay. Welcome everyone to the Toku Portal podcast. It's me, Zero, here with.
Dedicate.
Rye,
And Vashivi.
it's been a while since we've had this many people for a podcast.
It's been a while since I've been on the podcast.
uh, uh, oh, shoot. So, welcome everyone to Kamen Rider Zi-O, episode 37. So, what do you guys think? We got, what? 10 or 11 more episodes after this? Like, you think we're gonna end on, 48 or something?
I think so based on the fact of we only have two watches left now?
Yeah, so 37, 38 are the Kabuto watch, 39 and 40, I'm guessing are Drive, and then 41 and 42 are Deno, and then we enter the final arc with, 6 episodes to deal with, Schwartz as the final antagonist, I'm guessing. It seems like a good direction, in my opinion.
Like, at that point, the only reason to push it to 50 would be to have that dumbass, hey, now you have to fight Omazio, because that's not how timelines work.
I could also see them padding it a little bit to get more, air screen time for the final form, since it's being introduced so late.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's weird. To be honest, that is a good point because, Trinity's been basically acting like final form, right? And then, ZO2 has basically been acting as, base form for so long. I forget that there's supposed to be even one more. So it's
Yeah.
yeah.
He's got that final form he gets when he gets all the watches and becomes not Omazio.
Yeah. I mean, there's been shows like that, older shows tended to do that.
When did
But
Build get
having-
Genius?
But Build Get Genius? It was fucking
Because I remember that one was pretty late as well.
yeah. I mean, it all depend on how much time they want for the next show. Because if they have everything ready for the next show, this one's gonna end early. If they need a little bit of padding, it'll go over. It'll get close to 50. Because that's usually how it goes. But it's the first show of the new era. They probably have their shit together, most likely.
One would
Then
hope.
again, this show. Sorry, what was that, Vesmi?
I said one would hope.
Yeah, one would hope. Then again, this show seems like it actually has plot to do, multiple episodes. Like it finally feels like we're getting into oh, this is Zi-O the show. It's kind of interesting. It's Zi-O the show whenever Decade decides to show up,
Every
Right?
single-
He makes it so much.
Every single fucking time that this show is good, Decade has shown up. This is not.
So
this is.
recent
This is not Kamen
Yeah, go
Rider
ahead.
Zi-O. This is Kamen Rider Decade Part 2.
2.0. Part 2, yeah. That's what I was thinking. It's oh, that blame Decade meme into became something useful. So we can blame Decade for Zi-O being good now.
This
We
is-
blamed him for everything else.
This is Kamen Rider's version of the 10-year after.
Yeah,
Movies that
that's what I
Sentai
was
does.
thinking.
Oh, you're
To be
right.
honest, yeah, I really like how Decade acts in this because, his whole gimmick is he's the passing through Kamen Rider, right? And this is perfect where he just investigates weird shit going all over the place, and he doesn't involve anyone. He's whatever, I'll just do my own shit. I'll be a good guy, I'll be a bad guy. I don't care. I'll just do it my way. And normally in his show, it's super annoying, but everything after Decade the show, the character has gotten better and better at it. I think in Zi-O, he's fucking great,
Like,
right? He's so good.
for me, the best thing that sells Decade is the offhanded explanation for why he's been gone for half the fucking show. I mean, we know that
Yeah,
it's he's got other obligations to do that coincide with this show. Because it was what, Ginga or whatever the hell it was?
Yeah, it's Gara.
Yeah,
His own mini series of Ingara.
So, that was why he disappeared the first time, and it was, oh, I was just off investigating what this was going to be, and now it's, oh yeah, now I was off here, investigating this Tsukiyomi thing.
Dude, okay, so like there's two options. The whole like Tsukiyomi shit has been planned from day one, in which case they've been holding off on the good shit until we got later on. Or two, the Tsukiyomi shit was not planned, but
And
then
it's like a
Decades showed
heel
up
turn?
twice. Yeah, yeah, no. Yeah, and then Decades showed up and they just wrote. They're like, fuck it, this is the perfect chance to write this storyline, and they thought up on the fly. If that's the case, this is like the most fucking impressive use of like characters and like little foreshadowings and things. Especially because she got all the Fi shit at the beginning, and you're like, oh, that's cute. You're getting all the Fi stuff, and then like you see more of her backstory, and like, oh my god, it was all foreshadowing. That was so well done. But go ahead, Decade and Vashes.
Yeah, I kind of get that feeling because as much as I like the Decade and Tsukiyomi and short stuff going on in the background, it's like Uru and Aura are still, we don't know shit about them, and Aura just killed the chick last arc. it's
Uh,
it's kind of disappointing because they're supposed to be main villains, but they're just like background villains.
Right. It was a problem that I had for most of the series where they weren't getting character development, and then for a while it looked like was going to get character development, and then it went nowhere.
Like, if for a character that has been relegated to just being a background character, disappointedly, at least he's memorable. I don't like. I can't remember her name for the life of me, but
Aura.
She's a terrible villain.
She's the most forgettable one because she has nothing special about her. Is like a kid, and so he stands out more, and he had that whole thing where he was another Kikai, and Schwartz is the boss. Aura has nothing other than she's the female.
Well, I mean, beyond that, just the range of emotions that portrays has seemed well more developed than,
Oh yeah, that is also true. Like, he's been like giddy at times, he's been afraid at times. Like, you had that whole thing where he brought in another Ryuga.
Yeah, and it's like he was set up to be a fantastic villain because of that, which makes him, memorable in his own right. But they've underutilized him because where they should have.
I think that statement can be applied to this whole series.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, absolutely. Everything about this series has been underutilized, except Decade. Decade has been used perfectly.
Yeah, I think the problem is like until we had the Decade crossover, and then we like it seemed like the show realized like, oh, this is how we're supposed to use the other writers, right? Like,
right.
Oh, we can put them in and give the other characters character or maybe closure onto like that's more the Blade thing.
Now that we've been getting another writers that have some sort of relevancy to that original writer's story, it just upsets me more that the first arc writers had none of that. Another build had nothing to do with build. Another X-Aid had almost nothing to do with X-Aid.
Right. I mean, to be fair, like X-Aid's one of those ones where it's like, what's the lesson you're gonna teach, right? Like, unless it came in like the White Waz arc, it would have been basically like you couldn't really learn that much because Emu's like, yo, don't be a douchebag, like that's the lesson. So like, where it's like it's a really good show, but like once his show is done, like he's just a good guy writer like Emu. So the thing is like unless you're doing something crazy where it's like, oh, it was in like the White Waz arc or something like that, or like was gonna turn good, like if you wanted to do X-Aid there, those are like the only two chances, and that's like a run of like maybe like 5-10 episodes. But like X-Aid was done so early on, so it's like, okay, what are you even gonna do, right? And then like build is the same bullshit, is like their world doesn't exist, right? I mean, like you could do the whole thing of like, uh, shit, I don't know. I mean, like again, like the White Waz arc would be the best because it's like it applies to Waz, where it's like, well, so what? Or Tsukiyomi or whatever. So the point is like they only have very specific places where like X8 and build could happen. Most of the other shows can pretty much happen anytime. Like the Fly stuff pisses me off the most, and Forze, because I'm like Forze would have been fucking great because it's like, hey, knock this king shit off. People are more likely to help you if you're nice to them. You know, like, and then like if Sogo learned that lesson and became like at some point we've all seen it. Like Sogo went from being some douchebag who's running around saying I want to be king to genuinely being like a normal writer, right?
Right.
And like if he met Forza and he had that change of heart, it would have made perfect sense. But it's more like, yeah, he met future Mazio and then is like, oh, I don't want to be like you. I'm like, okay, that's a pretty good arc, and that happened in the Decade thing.
Right.
But then he kind of regressed a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, which made Decade literally go, what the shit? Because
Yeah,
like,
and then
Sogo
go.
gave up the belt after that, and Decade was like, all right, good, he learned his lesson. And then Sogo puts the belt back on, and Decade is like, what the fuck?
Right, like what is this Kabuto level of bullshit? Right? Even though like Kabuto is showing, look, it's so weird to have Kabuto show up so damn late in the show. Right? Like it's fucking amazing that it leads off the Kiva thing and the meteor coming and like, oh no, that's Jinga. It's like, oh, that's weird. And then like another meteor shows up and the end of this episode, a third meteor shows up. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like, what the hell, Kabuto? Um, besides that what the fuck factor, like Kabuto is I think one of the ones where it should have happened earlier on. I mean, like the cool thing is like Waz and Gates are kind of acting like Kabuto and Gatak throughout the episode, where like Waz is just acting like Kabuto and just bossing Gates around. So I'm like, oh, you're kind of doing the Kabuto thing there. That was kind of fun for a little bit, but it's like otherwise, like this story could have happened anytime. You know, I mean, like it's cool that it's happening later on because a Decade shows up and it's like, yeah, you're collecting the damn watches is fucking up space time. So that's cool. But yeah, you know.
To backtrack a bit, I did look up when Build's Genius Form aired, and it was on episode 39 in a series that ran for 49 episodes.
So pretty close to this,
and they kind of
still pretty damn late.
The issue I had with Build's Genius Form, because they've been having the habit of doing this here with the last couple of seasons, is nerfing the final form really fucking quick. Because they nerfed that really fucking quick with Build.
Dude, they nerfed like 3-4 forms in Build. It's
fair,
like, oh, new form. It's only gonna be strong for one episode. It's like, woof, what the fuck was that? Like, Build was the worst, man. It's like, okay, you debuted, you're unbeatable. Better hope you got 20 minutes to beat this guy. If not, your fucking power is... Like, that happened so many times in Build, it was so annoying.
Because the bad guy learned emotions.
They didn't nerf X8's like Muteki form. They just made it balanced by unbalancing all of the enemies.
Yeah, exactly. Cronus was so busted. That's like, how do you beat a Game Genie? Oh, okay, I just have the pause screen is my ability.
I have a reset button.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like X8, oh, I'm sorry. Is my form too busted? Here, I'll just make an enemy even more busted. Like, holy fuck, man. Like, we complained about Kronos so much. Because, like,
he was a bad final villain.
He was a bad... Okay, he would have been fine. It's just it got stretched out way too long. And that's sort of the same problem in Ghost, is, like, the final villain, it's just, like, yeah, you're strong, but, like, it's not enough to carry the story. You know? It's like, it's power, but it's, like, it's not interesting.
Like,
whereas, like, Evolve was kinda somewhat enjoyable, but it got real annoying by the end.
Like, with Ghost and Build, the best things about it were the build-up to the final villain. And then the final villain showed up, is like, y'all fucked up.
Whereas in Build, the final villain was there the entire series, and the more you learn about his plan, the less his plan made sense.
Yeah, I mean, like I saw. I mean, it's interesting to see what they were going for with Evolve, and like Suichi's actor is really charismatic, and like the suit acting is really fun. But that's not Schwartz. Stark. But like once Stark goes and Evolve shows up, like it starts to get real fucking annoying.
Especially when he nerfed his own plan. I'm gonna
Right?
destroy the world.
Right.
Nope, I'm gonna rule Japan.
I know, that was so like, oh, you realized you hit the reality. No, he looked out and he saw the TV screen of, oh no, I'm in a Kamen Rider show. Like, better back off. Yeah, we're not Gaim here to nuke fucking US. Or actually, was that like there were nukes fired at Japan and Gaim ported it to fucking US? Or something happened in Gaim. I remember it being real stupid with the
I see you
nostalgia.
discovered your old memories and used the information gained from that to create your strongest form yet, just as I planned all along.
Oh my god, you're right. That was so fucking stupid. That was so dumb. It's like, yes, I did it all according to... I'm like, fuck you.
This was
No.
not planned. Like, Build makes a lot more sense if you assume Evolt is winging it the entire time and never had a plan.
I know, it's way more fun that way too. It's like you're just pulling shit out of your ass. just saying you. I mean, to be fair, like, he's an all-powerful, like, world-destroying life form. Who gives a shit? Like, he doesn't care. Like, if it takes him, like... He's basically Yuri from fucking Command and Conquer. Sort of. Except Yuri had more of a plan, but, like, imagine if he had, like, the same, like, time skip of, like, oh, fuck it. You know, if I don't succeed, I'll just wait you out 100 years and then take over then.
And
So, like, I think, like, Evolve, like, at the end deciding, ah, fuck it, I'll just screw around for a bit instead of destroying the world. I can see it happening. Him saying, like, more shit like, oh, this is part of my plan is stupid.
So, I feel like Schwartz in Zi-O is like the anti-Evolt, where Evolt, like, as you go along with the show, you feel like things are progressing. You feel like Evolt is getting closer to his non-existent plan. Whereas Schwartz has had the same consistent plan throughout the entire show, and I feel like zero progress has been made since he started.
Right? Which is more interesting because, like, he keeps showing up, but we learn basically nothing. I mean, like, he's acted well enough, and we have, like, random fun moments every once in a while.
There
But
was
it's like, yeah, it's exactly this. Like you said, it's the anti-Evolt of, like, he keeps showing up, his plan doesn't move forward. I'm not bored by him. I actually want to learn more about this guy instead of Evolt, where it's like, fuck off, I don't want to see you on screen anymore.
like during the Whitewash stuff, he kept implying that we were getting somewhere with his plan, but nothing has changed since then.
Again, this comes down to, like, him transforming into the final villain, which unfortunately is going to be one of those kind of seemingly last minute rushed things. Because there's been no progress made on his plan that we can see. And
Right.
but that's
really,
one.
I feel
Like, that type of thing has been one thing that this series did really, really well, and I know we discussed it one of the last times I was on the podcast, is after that first initial arc, we're all kind of, this show sucks, and then we got that point where it put everything else into perspective for what we've seen. It changed the perspective of it all, because they played that there was something underneath it the entire time that we didn't realize until that episode, which I think is what the only way that they could pull that off is to make it, to give us that same sensation of, oh yeah, that's right, kind of moment. Which, because we had that with like Gates and Waz starting to get along, and that whole dynamic changing, that we didn't notice up until that point, where it was smacked out and pointed out right into our face. And then looking back on it, we could see it, which is about the only good aspect of the show that has nothing to do with Decade.
Kinda. I mean, like I feel like Schwartz's problem is like he should be like wise man, right? Or
Where
slash
like his secret goal has nothing to do with what he's
what
actually
you're
doing.
yeah, exactly. Like he's working towards a goal and he's constantly getting towards a goal, but him making monsters is just a side effect of him getting to his goal, right? Like he has a plan, he's always working towards the plan. You think he's just making monsters, but like he's got like another layer going on until like later on you don't realize. But like here the problem is we know exactly what Schwartz's plan is. It's to make somebody strong enough to take out Amazio, right? But he's not even trying that hard. Like he has fucking time powers. There's literally multiple time machines in this show. Right?
As far as we
even
know,
stuff
every time jacker has their own time machine.
We know they at least have one.
Yeah, they have at least one.
And then
hell,
they also have
no,
access
no, they have
to
more
Decade.
because remember we used to get the stupid Megazord fights.
Right.
Right.
We've seen both. I think we've seen both and or in their own time machine fighting against Zi-O and Gaze's time machines.
Right, and then they also have access to Decade. But then again, everybody has access to Decade, apparently.
I mean, to be
Depends
fair,
on
like
his
if
mood.
Tsukasa... Yeah, it depends on his mood. He's one of those guys, like, he'll like, listen to you, and if he's fed up with your bullshit, he'll just port away. He'll just open a portal and walk through it and be like, piss off. Right? So it's like, it depends on his mood. Like, he's really one of those writers where it's like, is he a good guy? Who knows today? Which
Hey,
is really fun.
Hey, Decade, get in my time machine. I'll take you to the past. Why would I got a much lazier and faster idea?
I know, right? He's so busted. And I love how the show totally uses it. Like, he doesn't give a fuck. It's just like, oh, I find this interesting, therefore I'm doing it. You know? Like, he doesn't really care about saving the day. He's like, whatever. I got nothing else to do right now.
So, Decade, what do you think about the whole Schwartz as a villain thing?
Yeah, I pretty much agree. He hasn't been super impressive. I mean, it is interesting, the whole bus thing, and now he's apparently known Tsukiyomi since she was a child, so that's pretty interesting, but honestly, I'd rather we get some background on the other two time jackers. Because like from the opening, it makes them seem like really interesting and like there's something going on. But then we get to the actual show and they do nothing. But I mean, the Kabuto villains were fun, at least.
I have to wonder how much was planned out at the start. Like with Exit and Build, you can clearly see an outline of like major events that they wanted to happen and the routes that they took to get there. But with Zi-O, like I have to wonder how much they planned out ahead of time and how much had to be like more on the moment.
Well, personally, I feel like a lot more of it had to be kind of like fly by the seat of their pants based upon who they could get, when they can get them.
Yeah.
Which, and that's the one reason why I give this series so much of a pass with some of the choices that they've made. Like with the Force episode, they couldn't get any of the main characters to come back for that,
Except the Straps teacher.
except for Straps teacher, because they all had commitments. The majority of the cast was doing Bleach, so them wanting to do it at that point, they had to kind of scramble and go, well, we don't have enough to carry for this, so hey, we were able to get the Fies people, so let's work that in together. And a lot of it just seems to be like jumbled like that. Um, like with the Kiva episode, for whatever reason they couldn't get Otoya back, despite the fact that he was just in the movie.
Right. That's the thing. Like the Kiva episode is really interesting because it's a good episode for what it is, but it's like this barely. I mean, like it has the Kiva flavor, but it's like it's not a tribute to Kiva. It's a tribute in like, oh, this might have been a thing that could potentially happen in Kiva, but it's like you've got like nobody from Kiva except Jiro.
Which
Right,
I mean,
and like Jiro does his best, but like he can't deliver any like the other writers have given out.
right.
Right, I mean, like his best thing is like, oh, just makes you. All right, that's a message from Kiva, but it's like it's not the same thing as like fucking Agito, like Decade or any of their shit.
Right. It's like, and
I
this,
mean, like.
this is where it gets problematic with the way that they obviously had to do this, because this is a series that works best with the way they planned it, with getting the actual writers back. They can only do so much with getting secondary characters, which in this case Jiro was. And don't get me wrong, Jiro was fantastic in Kiva, and his role here is kind of more or less in line with how he was in the show. Weird, creepy, and cryptic.
Yeah, I mean, my thing is like they should have just pulled somebody else, like any other person from Kiva, because like Kiva's got tons of people. It's got like different factions. The you could have had like a new Kiva show up. You could have if you didn't want anybody.
Is Zero breaking up for you guys?
He just started breaking up for me.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
For me the problem with like getting new Kiva is, well, we know who new Kiva is. It's Otoya. Which they obviously couldn't get him for, so they wouldn't have been able to get new Kiva.
Yeah, he's already got like a lot of commitments.
Right.
Yeah. Honestly, I would have been asked new Kiva. I'm like, all right, we put this character in here because like we could just reuse.
You started cutting out again.
New Kiva, I'm like, it's fine. It's been like fucking 20 years, or not 20, 15 years. The actor looks different now, or like new Kiva grew up to look different. I'm like, I'd be fine with that.
Like at the way the rate the actor is aging, he could totally be new Kiva in 2030.
Oh yeah, absolutely. He would fit perfectly.
Dude, he's aging backwards. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's what I said. Like, if you don't have anyone, just get the new use of Ixa. Right? It's the same thing as we've been saying for like.
Like, I mean, even with
like Sabi, right? Right, like the Kabuto thing. If they couldn't get anybody, they could have just gotten like, oh, this is the new user. But I mean, like, luckily we got a lot of good Kabuto actors, which is fucking awesome because they're great at. But
even if
if they couldn't get anyone,
even if two of them are absolutely fucking useless.
Kind of.
Kick and Punch Hopper were literally there just to be edgy.
That's what they do, though. Every single crossover, that's what they do. Like, even in the Decade crossover, that's what they do. Fuck, even in Kabuto, that's how they roll. And you know what? I'm fucking fine with it. Because they're like, yeah, they're kind of like the emo Kamen Riders, and they know it. Everybody fucking knows it. They just show up and do their bit.
The writers had no idea what to do with those characters to the point where the characters were literally chaining themselves down to not get involved.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Like
also love how they.
the one time Kabuto goes to them and says, "Hey, will you help me fight?" They're like, "Nah, we chained ourselves to this tree stump, so we won't fight."
Yeah, I know that was so stupid. Um, Honestly, I was kind of. It kind of got to me when like they leave and like Zio's like running down the road and then there's like the fucking instant noodle. I'm like, oh my god, they remembered the fucking food tie-in and their thing was the noodle packs. I mean, their fucking SH figure arcs come with like mini noodle packs, like plastic ones. Oh, it's so great. I'm like, oh my god, they even remembered. And it's like Hell Brothers flavor because like maybe that's an actual flavor. To be honest, I don't know.
Like
Because yeah,
it's these little things that show that at least the writers of the show and the producers and all this stuff, they have a love of the shows that they're paying homage to with this being the send off for the Heisei era. It's just every once in
yeah,
a while,
honestly,
due to commitments and in some particular instances, very bad writing, they're forced to drop the ball on it. And
yeah.
then
I mean, I especially love that they remembered the food share, and then they also remembered that Decade did a food episode. So next episode's preview is like, all right, this is the Kabuto food shit mixed with the Decade food shit, and it's freaking great. It looks so stupid. It's gonna be amazing. I love how it's like the food was like, yes, fucking okay. I hope the stupid knife shows up. You know what I'm right? Like, what's in the meteor? Oh, it was the knife returning
was the
back
It
to
was
demon
the.
the
knife.
knife all along.
Yeah, the world was doomed because an unworthy person took up the knife. Oh my god, that would be the stupidest but most amazing storyline.
and the one thing that was blocking its power was the ride watch.
Oh god, it's
Ugh.
so true. Holy shit, Zio, you fucker! You had to take that
Oh,
damn watch.
God. Kabuto would be so conceited he would use his own ride watch to block some evil ancient power.
Yes, he would.
Yes, he would. No, that
Okay.
sounds a little too noble for him, but I'm like, fuck it. You know what? That also does sound like a catch-22 that Kabuto would pull. Because, like, fuck it. I get to save the world, but I do it my way so nobody else can do it. And that's like, yeah. Man, I so hope the stupid knife comes back.
Okay. So I wanted to get all that out of the way, because it's been a while since there's been this many of us. So sorry for those of you who've been waiting us to actually talk about the episode. Welcome to actual Kamen Rider Zi-O episode 37. Where we open up with taking a walk in the middle of the night, contemplating the Kabuto watch, when another meteor crashes. And this one is filled with worms. These aliens that can mimic humans. And so their standard procedure is to kill a human and then mimic them to take their place. And as we see the worms like going through this process, one of them turns into Punch Hopper himself, Shun Kageyama, who should be dead.
Yeah, this episode's weird, man. Like, it seems like the ending of Kabuto didn't happen. Because, like, most of Kabuto wraps up and, like, all this shit is dealt with.
I think Kabuto did happen, and this one worm just somehow, because they explain later on, like, oh, the worms can even mimic dead people. But like, so the question just becomes like, how did this worm know about Punch Hopper? Because yes, the original Punch Hopper did end up turning into a worm himself. Kick Hopper immediately killed him.
Well, not immediately. He knew. He killed him at the end. But the thing is, like, yeah, their story. I feel like these guys are the ones from Decade. Because it seems like the ones in Decade are, like, somewhere in Kabuto, but, like, it's not, like, a proper Kabuto ending. So it's like maybe they're the ones from the Decade alternate history because like they were still alive and running around because fucking the end's world is fucked up and it's ruled by all the villains and like Punch and Kickhopper are there for some reason, sitting in a classroom tossing desks around. Um, yeah, it was weird. Like it feels. I mean, it's all timey wimey because like freaking Attack shows up and it's like when the fuck did Shibuya get built?
Yeah.
And I love
Yeah.
how it's like Zio's like, oh right, that was in '99. I wasn't even born yet. I'm like, oh my god.
Zi-O doesn't say that, no. Zio's just like, what are you talking about? And it's Gatak who's like, yeah, this was destroyed by that meteor in 99. So I was like, I don't know anything about that. That was before I was born.
I know. And when I heard that, I'm like, oh my god, they're so fucking young. These writers now. It's so weird.
Right? Like, hearing that shocked me. It's like, oh my god, Zi-O was born in 2000.
I know. Oh my god. Okay, the funniest thing, like, uh, okay, you could tie this into Kabuto, but it would be really fucking sad if you do. You know that like the the one child, right? Like you know, Kabuto has not Kabuto. Kuga has a sister who's a preschool teacher, and then like she has a friend who's another teacher who goes there, and she had a kid. I'm like, well, technically in the timeline that could fit, but I'm like, I don't want to do that because that's a really sad ending, because they fucking end up dead if there's what the hell, like Sogo's parents. So I'm like, fuck that. But it's like, yeah, it's one of those weird things where it's like, if you wanted to, you can tie stuff in to older writers. Like, you could tie that in. And then, like, the build one, especially, where it's like, fucking, it should have been the kid who was in Kabuto. Or not Kabuto, in Kuga. Who's, like, the chief scientist lady's son. That should have been freaking build. It would have been amazing. But, like, I don't know. We don't get tie-ins like that. Even though it's a freaking anniversary show, this one.
Decade, anything about the meteor crash?
Just in general, I love seeing the worm suits again because even though they're kind of bulky, they're really detailed and freaky looking. And compared to recent series grunts, they're just like on a whole nother level. So, and yeah, them turning into humans is pretty freaky as well. So, I like seeing them.
Like they're the worms for me are a very unique looking villain. Even just the ones that just stay grunts. And then you get the ones that evolve, and it's like they look even creepier and freaky, and it's like this is it's a sight that sticks with you, and it's very nice to see again. Because that was one thing I liked about the Kamen Rider Forever movie, Heisei Forever, was seeing all the mixture of the grunts from over the years, and then, but for this, just seeing them so iconically and up close, it's like, ooh, I've missed this. Despite the giant clusterfuck that Kabuto is.
Yeah. Well, Kabuto tried to do too much. And that's what its biggest failing is. Like, it tries way too much crazy shit. And it just throws stuff at the wall and tries to see what sticks.
Kabuto time traveled to make his movie and the beginning of the series take place at the same time.
Yeah. It's true. Fucking Godspeed Love is such nonsense, which is why it's great, because it's like this is just a dumb writer movie. Like, don't think about it. It's important, but it's a dumbass writer movie, and that's what just makes it great. Because like, all right, it just watch it for the action. None of the shit actually is important. It's important for the show, but it's not important. Like, their lives don't fucking matter. This timeline's gonna get erased anyway. Yeah, it's fucking hilarious. But the weird thing is, like, the worms crash, and like yeah, those suits are pretty great and creepy with like because the worms have like two sets of hands where it's like the regular hands on their side and then like their eyes are covered up by hands. That's always fucking freaky. Um, but the weird thing is like they crash and then they mimic humans. I'm like, all right, yeah, they do that. But then they do it so in the open. I'm like, what what the fuck is this? Because like that's not the standard worm MO. But I'm like, it's Zi-O. We need monsters to attack. So they're probably just acting like grunts. The weirdest thing too is because worms have like some like level of sapience. So like Gates and Waz just fucking murdered the shit out of them. I'm like, okay, they just mimic humans. You don't even know if they killed anyone. Right? Like an alien species just landed on a planet and your thing is, oh look, monsters, murder. Like right off the bat. You know, I'm like, what if these were the worms that you could negotiate with? Because some of those existed.
You
Right,
know,
go ahead, Vash.
Kabuto's sister.
Right, like Kabuto's sister is a specific case. I meant more like the heads of Zect, who like because there's like two factions of worms, right? Like there's the ones that crash like third, or I mean like before the original, and then there's the ones that crash so from all the Godspeed love. Um, so yeah, like you could talk to them, right? Like so it's one of those like weird situations where it's like if like Roymute showed up and your solution was murder, immediate murder. And I'm like that what are you doing? They're like sentient AI, right? Like they're not monsters. Yeah, they look weird, but like if you have a chance to talk to them, right? Like it's one of those issues where it's like the more you know about certain shows, the weirder it gets. Like especially whenever like it always bugs me whenever like Clay Doll from like Double shows up and she's just a grunt suit. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? You beating up like Philip's sister like constantly. It annoys the shit out of me whenever like that suit shows up in the movies. I'm like, she's not a bad guy. Like, why are you doing that? It's so annoying. Anyway, my mini rant over. Anything else on these guys?
Like,
Yeah, but the worms are freaking great.
To start with, I have one problem with this set of worms.
What's up?
These are the dumbest fucking worms.
Yes, they are
Right,
late to
the
the party.
reporter.
They show up, mimic people, and don't leave.
Like, not even that. Not even that. The one who mimics the news reporter lady, like, the worms always had this natural instinct to hide themselves, right? Blend in. That's the whole point of their mimicking nature. The one that mimics the news reporter lady, like, immediately exposes itself live on camera. And it mimicked her, so it knows what a camera is. It knows what it's doing.
Like
Right, and it's like
that was one of the
it's
things.
such a dumbass.
But that was one of the big things about the worms in Kabuto was they'd take over, they'd mimic, kill the other person, and then they'd leave and actually take over that person's life. They wouldn't just basically stand
Right.
next to the body.
Exactly, and they'd be really fucking good at it. Like really fucking good at emotional manipulation. Like fuck Gatak's brother, like holy shit, that was some fucked up shit.
Which,
You know,
which I guess
right? Like imagine
like these ones being kind of slow. It makes sense that it took them this long to land.
right. That's what I was thinking. I'm like, oh, this is the worms that are just pure grunts. They don't know what the fuck they're doing. But I'm like, yeah, but worms do all that shit instinctively, so it doesn't make any sense. Right? Like they don't need coordination. They're just a bunch of weirdos.
These are the
You
ones
just
that
learn, mimic people and learn and adapt after that.
this is gonna
Right?
come across kind of insensitive in a manner of speaking. I don't intend it to offend anybody, but these are the ones that rode the short bus.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, I know it's just because we had to do it like that for the story. But like, you already had Kagami running around, right? You could have just said, yeah, Zack is continuing to find out and take out any worms that are still left because you never know how many are still left, right? Like, they fucking mimic people. There's no way of knowing how many of them are still around. So if you just had like a bunch of like if you just had like, oh, this is a rogue group of worms, they're doing their own shit, perfectly fine. You know, like, oh, they saw another meteor or realized that there's another meteor, forced it to crash somehow, right? Like, they could have been like multiple stories you could have written, but like, yeah, again, it's so weird. It dumbs down the monsters, which is really stupid. It's just because they want a dumbass fight and not think about it, but it's like you're wasting so much potential dumbing down like something like how interesting of a villain are like changelings or Roy Mute. Same thing. You know, or like most of the fucking Heisei Rider villains are super interesting. But like this show just treats them like they're Sentai grunts, right? Like they just show up in numbers, you just knock them down. It's like, yes, Sentai grunts could be interesting, but like Rider grunts are interesting most of the time. So it's like you're kind of wasting the nuance of these monsters from their shows, right? Like the fungi, especially like not one fungi showed up in the Kiva episode, which I'm glad because I'm like each fungi is unique because they're basically fucking vampires, right? They're perfectly normal humans. So like they don't act like a normal group. Like they have their own laws and shit, but like you can't have like a grunt set of fungi. It doesn't work like that. Like they haven't lived hundreds of years to act that stupid, you know? And maybe that's why they had to put the Jenga stuff in there because they're like we can't pad out 2 episodes without grunt.
Okay. So, uh, our heroes, while eating breakfast, see the news report of the meteor crash, and then see the worms start attacking people live on TV, and take a moment for Waz to explain what worms are before deciding to go do something about it. Uh, and then on their way, another meteor crashes, and so Soga's like, all right, me and Tsukuyomi go this way, Gaze, you and Waz go that way. And Gaze turns around to address Waz, who isn't there, because he's like on a bridge 10 feet away doing like the intro recap thing. And we are getting closer and closer to him doing that in front of another character, and I'm waiting for that.
Yeah, at first I was skipping through. I'm like, wait, what? Was is a worm or got taken over? Then I'm like, oh no, he's just doing the intro. Yeah, that's gonna be interesting. Honestly, like I wonder why they're holding up. Maybe they're gonna save it for the finale.
Yeah, that's what I'm
It'll
thinking.
be
Like
weird.
last episode, he does it, and everyone is just like, "Who are you talking to?"
Right. Either that or they go like full build. Okay, yeah. So, oh, it just turns out like Waz is writing the story of the new timeline. And so he'll just write like he won't do a recap. He's like, no, this is the future now. And it's like, and he's just gonna be like proclaiming to I don't know, like Schwartz or Amazi or
I was just
whoever.
about to
I
say, like,
have
he's like doing the like whole spiel, and then the camera turns, and he's doing it to Schwartz.
I actually have a great way for them to pull that off. At the
Oh no,
very
so I was actually more saying that he's like talking down the final villain. We're saying like, no, this time I get to write the history I. So like it's more of a heroic thing, but yeah, you guys are doing the other way where it's like, oh no, he's talking to the villain.
I have an even
But
better
go ahead,
version
guys.
for that. Have it go through the entire thing like it normally, and then the last scene of it being Waz doing like his little final speech, and it pans over and it's a bunch of kids. and he's teaching
Oh,
them the history.
oh, that'd be pretty good too.
Like
Shit, that's pretty
it
good.
would make sense. It any three of those ways it would work amazingly.
Yeah, watch as this show does none. But
Oh, of course.
holy shit. Yeah, holy shit. Those three would be such awesome ways of doing it.
All right. So, meanwhile, somewhere else in Japan, uh, uh, a certain Kamen Rider Gatak is going about his daily business when he sees this meteor crashing. Kagami! But the real stinger here, is when they do that moment where they make you think they're about to play the Kabuto opening instead of the Zi-O one.
God damn it!
And holy shit, give that guy a raise.
Like,
That might be the best stinger in all of the Heisei era.
because like as soon as it happened, the song started playing in my head, and then it popped up the logo. I'm like, God damn it!
I like froze for a second. I was like, no. God!
What? Oh, are you talking about the Kabuto? What do you guys? Sorry, I kind of dropped out.
Where it pops up the split second of like the Kabuto intro where it does the
where it looks
yeah.
like they're
wings
about
over.
to do the Kabuto intro instead of the Zi-O one, and for a moment
Oh,
we
yeah, yeah.
believed it. Right,
Yeah,
Decade?
that was fucking cool. I mean, honestly, like I was really impressed by that shot before, where it's like the meteor crashing and then like freaking attack just turns and I'm like, oh, that was so well done. And then like yeah, the Kabuto. But go ahead, Decade.
Yeah, I think they had him up on that building where Laser confronts Dan the last time. But yeah, that that's just like such an iconic thing from the opening of Kabuto. That was pretty great.
Like,
And I was saying after the Sentai cast that next episode they better play Full Force or Lord of Speed during the last fight, because damn it if they don't, that would be a huge waste.
Right, definitely have songs. I actually Blade and Naruto one, right?
Agito, they
Oh.
played,
I think.
I don't know what it's called.
But
Believe
yeah,
yourself.
Believe Yourself, thank you.
I don't
but
think you
I
got a
don't-
Blade one.
Yeah, I don't think they played anything during Blade.
Fucking fine with Lord of Speed, man, or whatever. Like Kabuto has two really good fights. A little bit, it'd be fucking amazing.
Alright, so, on their way, Tsukuyomi stops and asks Sogo a question that, you know, after talking to Vashi, they probably should have asked already.
Oh, yes.
Which is, hey, how come the new Another Riders aren't erasing the originals from history? My original explanation when this started happening was like, oh, well, Another Blade was created in 2019, not back in 2004 when Blade happened. That's why it wasn't erased. But they're finally just now acknowledging it themselves in show.
right, and there was enough that has happened between then to kind of justify the well, we had a lot to deal with kind of thing. Like you had the Agito incident with all of the another Agitos being created. Then you had Kiva and Ginga and all that. It's like, but there still should have been a point where they're like not actively doing something, which actually happens quite a lot in the show, where they went, "Hey, you know what? I noticed something." Like even
Yeah.
like it makes.
I mean, I'm just
it makes we have the justification. We understand the justification for the writers being existing because we understand how they were created, based on our knowledge of how that works.
I mean, that was just a guess, and the way they bring it up here makes me feel like there's something else going on, and I'm worried that's an even dumber explanation than what I said.
Oh yeah, I would not put it past the show for it to be even dumber than that.
Yeah, I think the show's just having the issue of like, oh, if we don't see it, it doesn't happen. So it's like they forget the characters are living their normal lives when all this crazy shit's not happening, so they have downtime. Like the show seems to forget that. Then again, these are the geniuses who see a
That's
worm attack and be like, yeah, maybe we should do something about it. I mean,
that.
like, you know? So it's like these guys aren't the brightest. I'm at least glad that they're doing some investigative work. That being said, it's always when fucking Decade shows up that these guys grow a couple brain cells, so I don't know what's going on with that.
Here
That
I
exact
found
statement you said
has given
about
that alone gave me the solution that they could easily do, and it would be stupid,
go on.
but would work. It's Decade's fault.
Oh my god. Narataki just shows up in the corner, yells, and then
Killing
leaves,
Cammy
and then they're
Decade.
like, who
You
the
know
fuck
what?
was
I hope Narutaki shows up in
that? And
the
gives Schwartz the
Gaiman
power up.
No, in the Gaiman Tokyo crossover. No, Narutaki showed up there. Did he have like his own like weird puppet thing?
Yes.
Yeah, I hope he
Yes.
shows up with that for no reason.
Oh my god, that was so stupid. That was so good. Narutaki's like a weirdo man, but like he's Superman, Superboy Prime. That's what he is of like the Rider-verse. Like at least for a long time, that's what we thought his backstory was, and now it's like who the fuck knows? Nobody knows.
Narutaki
But
is really just a guy going around and blaming Kamen Riders for things.
like even not Kamen Rider, it's just Decade. Even the actor has no idea. Like he's like I don't know what the fuck is going on with this character. Like I just want to know, but like they won't tell me, so I'm like, just doing it.
Like
What's
but
my
Jesus,
motivation?
I
What do you
I
need
want
that
Schwartz
for?
and Narataki to meet because holy shit, Schwartz is like, yes, I found the perfect guy to become the new king, and it's
Narutaki is
fucking
another
Narataki.
Omazeo.
Yeah, Narataki totally could be another Amazia because he's like, I'm fed up with this writer bullshit. I'm fucking gonna reset the timeline to how it should be. Like, if
Although-
anybody who could do that, it'd be Narataki.
like I kind of want to go back in every crossover movie that when things start going wrong, I just want to edit in a scene of him going, "Damn you, Decade."
Just
Right, right. I mean, like, to be fair, think about who he's facing. The destroyer of worlds, the guy whose belt basically powers him up with 9 plus his own shit. And you're running around and fighting him with what? A fucking brown raincoat? Like, yeah, and yelling like it's all your fault, asshole, and then getting away with it. Like, you gotta give Narataki some props.
and a hat.
Yeah, I guess the hat's important too.
Like, I guess he's an antagonist, but he is by far my favorite antagonist ever.
You know what the best part is? In that guide crossover Decades, like, that Narataki guy. Maybe I should look into it. Clearly feeding into, oh, we're finally gonna answer this dumbass bullshit about Narataki. And it went nowhere. They've never answered anything past that. Jeez. No. Like, they know it's a problem.
Like,
They make fun about it being a problem.
like I would
but
be
they'll never
okay.
solve it.
I would be okay if like one of Decade's final scenes in Zi-O is like just him looking at Sugo and going, "Yeah, there was this dude following me around for a while. I finally figured out what it was for," and that's the end of it.
They don't even tell you.
They don't even tell us? Yeah. Holy shit, that'd be great. Oh my god. Yes, that's... No. It's the ultimate answer. That's the power inheriting the Heisei Rider's power. It's knowing Narutaki's backstory, but that's
It's-
what Zi-O actually inherited.
Narutaki's backstory is the second biggest mystery in all of Decade.
Right. And then it's like, yeah, he gets the answer, but we never get to hear it, and that's the thing. Because you know Zi-O's gonna give all the writers their powers back, right? Therefore, it's like, okay, So the one thing he inherits is the actual Narutaki's backstory, but we never get to hear it. And it's like it's the most dumbass shit, but it's like I'd be totally fine with that. It's never gonna happen, but it'd be fucking amazing.
I found what they could do. It's not Sugo who gives the powers back, but Decade who does.
So they don't go Kaiser the ending.
So Sugo grows up to be Narutaki.
Oh my god! Holy shit! Holy shit! That's amazing. He doesn't grow up to be a Mazio. It's just Narutaki. Is that what fucking Tsukiyomi saw when she saw the crown? It's like Narutaki sitting there. Oh my god! Holy shit! Schwartz and Narutaki got fucked over.
See, like,
Oh man, this is too good. This is too good,
like,
Bashi.
Like, this is one of those things, like, we are obviously putting way more stock in this than anybody at Toei.
Yeah, well, the thing is, Narutaki had a monster form in one of the movies, so it's like, oh, the leader of the Shocker or whatever, and Decade just, like, pushed past you and became leader. Like, I think that's the implied explanation. They never say any of that shit. But I'm like, this is so much better. This is so much better. Oh, fuck. So good.
Alright. Back to Zi-O, though. So they show up to the crash site and don't see any worms around because Sogo's a fucking idiot and doesn't realize that the people standing there are the worms. Meanwhile, Gaze and Waz, they go fight their worms, and they argue about who's in charge. And then Gatak shows up and rescues Sogo from getting his ass kicked.
Right? Which is the most interesting thing is, like, Sogo doesn't have a speed form. Like, his secondaries do, but he doesn't have one, which is so interesting.
Like,
I mean, I guess it makes his power-up useful in this episode.
Like, they did a good job of it, at least giving him that one moment of, I can see the future! And
yeah,
at least that
he can do.
Yeah, because he forgot he can fucking do that.
So the best thing is that, like, Punch Hopper shows up and, like, he and Gatak start getting into this clock up battle. They're moving at light speeds, and Sogo's like hiding behind some rubble. Like, what's going on?
I know, I love that. Like, he's seen so much shit, but like as soon as like a speedster rider shows up, he's like, "Fuck it, I got nothing." That's so good.
He literally
like, that's what it's
he literally turned into Gohan.
kind of. But yeah, I know what you're saying. To be honest, that is what it's supposed to be like for most people. Like that's not how like the fights in Kabuto look because usually you see it from the rider's point of view, so everybody else is slowed down and the environment slowed down. But it's nice to see it from like normal people's point of view because like a ton of speedster riders show up and like most other Kamen Rider shit just treats it like a normal fight where it's like that's not how it would look like to the rest of them. Right? Like they be doing their shit and like crap should be exploding around them like in this episode. Whereas like Sogo's just there and shit's just falling around him because they're fighting so fast and knocking shit. You know, like unless you're like a drive rider or like another speedster rider, like the clock up or like the speedster rider should be like doing shit and you wouldn't be able to perceive it. I mean, like maybe if you're like Wizard or something, like Wizard and Infinity, or I mean, like a lot of fucking Final Forms have speed. Like, yeah, fast, but I feel like the clock up riders are a little bit faster, or like the specific speed form riders are faster. But at this point, I think like Toe has just decided like, okay, you're a speedster rider, you can keep up with all the other speedster riders. Like if your gimmick has a time limit, we'll follow the time limit out, but like the speed is all the same.
Also, I wondered why Gattacked was looked weird to me, and then he did Cast Off, and I was like, oh, that's right, I forgot that existed.
Like, I had that same moment, and that changed me because I've seen Kabuto, I think, more recently than you have.
Yes.
And I'm like, he was a lot more blue. And I don't remember him being that bulky. And where is his horns? Oh, right. Cast off. I'm dumb.
So Tsukiyomi uses her time stop powers to stop some rubble and save a mother and child, and she gets a brief memory flashback of her standing in a room with two other people. You can't see their faces, but one of them couldn't more obviously be Schwartz.
Because, I mean, he's wearing the same hat he wore on the bus.
And then cut to Schwartz, who's overlooking her, like, man, she's getting strong. And then Deke shows him, he's like, yeah, you and her are related somehow. And Schwartz is like, piss off, and walks away.
Yeah, I love how Schwartz is like, oh, you figured this part out, do the rest yourself too, and just walks away. And Decade's like, fuck it, I'll do it, I guess.
Here's what I think Decade's...
I love their dynamic, where like they're both super strong, but they super don't give a shit what the other one does. Like Schwartz technically should be stopping Decade, but he knows like Decade's super strong, so it's like if I just leave him alone, he'll probably leave me alone. Right, so
Schwartz is basically looking at Decay going, yeah, you kind of have a better set of powers than Zi-O does, so yeah, go have fun.
So here's what I think's been happening with Decade, right? He shows up in this world, learns about Zi-O, learns about Omazio, and goes, okay, Sogo seems like a nice guy, so I'll show him what he becomes when he realizes his dream of being king. I'll show him that, you know, he destroys the world. And then Sogo momentarily gives up being a rider and then turns back to being a rider, and Deke goes, that wasn't what I planned. And then he disappears for a while, right? Because the actor was doing stage shows. But then he reappears at the bus scene in the past when Sogo first got his dream of being king. So I think that was like Decade had been like exploring the other timeline to find out how and why Sogo became Omazio in the first place. Like what pushed him into that, leading him to that bus scene.
The best part about the show is former writer and side character on a bus, right? Like without that scene, the show would be so much more shit. Right? Like, just stop to think about that. This show is fucking weird.
And then, so that investigation leads him to realize, like, okay, so Schwartz was the one who planted the king idea inside of Sogo. Why did Schwartz do that? Where did Schwartz come from? And so this whole time he's been looking into Schwartz's history, and then finds out, like, I recognize that girl. What's the connection here?
And then finding it out and going, let's go see what she wants to do with this information.
Yeah, I should probably tell her about this. See, does she know about this? I should probably let her know. And that is all literally just speculation because the actor just hasn't been available to appear every episode. But I feel like it makes sense. Like I feel like that falls into place.
Like, and it does. It's like even with like half of the time he shows up, he explains his disappearance and I was looking into something.
Yeah, he doesn't get as specific as I was, but I feel like what I was saying is a good explanation for it.
And I feel it is too. It's like especially here with this one too, because he literally shows up going, "Hey, yeah, I did some digging," and then it literally leads into kind of what he was digging into without full-on detail. And then he shows up and goes, "Hey, yo, weird chick with the powers. Come look at this."
Yo, you want to see some weird shit?
You want to see my portal?
Oh man, so true. Thoughts on this Decade? Then I'll give mine.
I mean, yeah, we've kind of already talked about it. It's Decay doing Decay things, but Tsukiyomi's definitely become more interesting in recent arcs. So I'm glad that we're finally doing some more investigating into her backstory. Seems interesting.
Zero, you had something to say?
Yeah, one sec.
Alright. Well, while we're waiting for Zero, the fight is like interrupted by another Kabuto showing up, who is Kickhopper. And he says that he envies Kagami. Uh, so, like, it's
Yeah,
weird.
I got it. I got
Okay.
it. At least I got it. Like, if you haven't seen Kabuto, most people wouldn't get that damn joke. Um, but it's
Actually, yeah,
fucking
now that I
great.
think about it, Vashi, did you get that far?
No, I have not.
Oh my God.
I have gotten to where I think they show up the second time as Punch and Kickhopper.
Does the sword show up? No, I think the sword's already there.
Yes, the
right?
sword's
Sasori's already there, but
I believe, and where I'm at, I believe he's already done.
he
Oh, okay, then it's already
befriends.
happened.
No, he befriends.
It's the date episode.
He befriends Kagami later on.
No, I know.
I may have
it's
missed the joke.
Okay, so Sword and Kagami become friends, and so like he knows Kagami has like a crush on like the person Kagami works with, right? And so he tries to set up Kagami to go on this dumbass date. And like Kagami is being awkward, so he just shows up as like his best wingman, trying to be like hyper romantic shit going on to help out. He pulls up like this basically like cart stand, with all this like lovey-dovey crap, and then like he says like, "Oh, my friend Kagami," and he says it super weird, and he does like this weird.
He emphasizes the "ga" for some reason. Kagami, and like
Yeah, he does it super weird, and then he like
does it more than
pretends
just
to
that
like
too.
walk. He does like a mime walk thing. It's so fucking weird, and like it's such a meme. It's like it's such a Kabuto meme.
Kagami goes to visit the dude at his house, and he like greets him like that, like "Welcome, Kagami."
Yeah, it's just the way he talks. He always just sounds like that. It's weird. It's fucking. I don't know, man. Like this sword and attack stuff was so nice in Kabuto, to be honest. It's because like most of the other writers were telling each other to piss off or like fighting all the time. So it's nice to have like like two writers who get along, and then bad shit happens to the sword. So that's all I'm gonna fucking say about. Then again, like bad shit happens to pretty much every other writer that's not like Kabuto.
Well, I mean that's because Kabuto walks the path of heaven.
Walks the path. Oh, so you haven't gotten to the point of what they explain what the path of heaven is,
No.
right?
All I've gotten
yeah.
That's what his grandmother used to say.
No, his grandmother.
When
we actually get to it, actually it makes so much more sense. But you have to remember it's a very Japanese show. So
when
like the
you
path
get
of
to
heaven
that
shit.
point, Vashi, if you manage to finish Kabuto and you get to that point, I want you to message me whether or not you think Kabuto is an even bigger asshole after you find out.
Right.
I'm
so
pretty
that's
sure
what
the
I'm
answer
saying.
is yes.
No, it's actually not. Well, the Kabuto's interesting thing is like he always says walk the path of heaven, and if you've seen Kabuto, you know what the fuck it actually means, but it gets revealed like really late on. And he comes off as such an asshole in this show. But like what he represents is a very interesting point, especially from like a Japanese point of view, which is very much like conformity, and Kabuto's like, nah, path of heaven, you know? Right? He's always going on about that, and like when you actually figure it out, it's like, that's an interesting point. Like you're still kind of an asshole. But like it's a very interesting point. Like it's one of those things where it's like, oh, every writer like O's is like, reach out your hand. You don't have to save the world if you just try to save somebody close by, right? And that'll change it. Or things like that. Or like Ryuki is like, just keep trying, even though you don't have the right answer. Fies is like, if I'm damned if I try and damned if I'm not, I'm just gonna fucking do it anyway. Right? Better to do something like stuff like that. And like Kabuto's one is like Path of Heaven, but like until you get to later on, you figure out what that means. Like it doesn't make any sense. But like in context, in a very Japanese mindset, it's a good philosophy because it's like, yeah, have the strength to basically walk down the path of heaven. I'm trying not to spoil it because Kabuto is kind of an asshole. It's not like a super profound thing or anything, but it's like, oh, it's relatively nice. And like Kabuto definitely embodies that philosophy. Whether like you think that's worth, spending a whole show of Kabuto acting like he is to nail that philosophy into you, that's questionable. But like at least his philosophy kind of makes.
All right. So Zi-O takes Kagami back to the clock shop, as is customary for some weird reason, just to get the information that they probably could have gotten in the time it took them to walk back to the clock shop, but whatever.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's just they're like, we don't want to shoot anymore on location. It's like, right, reset to clock shop. That way they can do like, all right, this is the morning scene, because this is how a Zi-O episode starts. So with them doing something in the morning, they get news, they go out, they come back to the damn shop, they do some more shit, and then final battle. So that way they're shooting like half the damn episode in the clock shop at once, and then the rest gets to be on location, right? So it's probably like a cost cutting measure, but yeah, it's super fucking formulaic at this point.
So Kagami explains to them who Kick and Punch Hopper are, or who they were rather. They were two people who used to be somebodies, and then they fell into nobodies, and they became the Hell Brothers together. And then Kageyama is dead now, so the one that they were fighting is clearly a worm. And for some reason, Punch Hopper dead. Kick Hopper is now another Kabuto for some weird reason.
Yeah, to be honest, like, it's really interesting to see like the actors come back, because like when they did it in Decade, I think it was just voiceover.
Yeah,
but, like,
it was just
holy
voiceover.
fuck, right? Like, Kick Hopper has not aged a day, right? Like, I mean,
Right.
okay, he looks a little bit older, but not like fucking like Kabuto's older than Kiva, and Kiva's like 15 years old, man. Right? So it's like, or at least 10, whatever. The point is, it's been a damn while, and right, like if they wanted to go like, oh yeah, one more ride watch here, Kamen Rider the first, right? Like you got the guy right there. Like I could see it happening. I mean,
Kabuto
at
was
this point, fucking
2006.
yeah, holy shit, so long, 13 years.
And Kick Hopper looks like he spent that time at McDonald's.
Punch Hopper.
Or Punch Hopper, whichever
Punch
one
Hopper.
it is.
Yeah, I know. I was getting
Yeah.
them confused too.
I mean, to be fair, like you played the character really young. Like your body structure kind of changes when you age anyway. Like it's the same thing as when I saw like Tezuka from Ryuki and the Ryuki thing. I'm like, you don't look the same. And then like you put the picture side by side, it's like, oh, I can see the facial features and stuff. So
Like-
it's just like it's just a problem growing up.
Like I had that same issue with Soichi. Like 'cause
Suichi actually I
Soichi's
didn't
not-
have that much.
like-
It's just a hair.
it clicked fat, and he's not as tan.
Yeah, the tan thing definitely also.
It's like it wasn't until he spoke certain words and then did his little henshin pose. I'm like, oh yeah, that's definitely the same guy.
Right? I mean, like, honestly, I felt that, like, Blade looked super fucking old when he showed up in Go Rider. But like everything after that, I'm like, oh, okay, he looks older, but not insanely old as like that first fucking episode he shows up in Go Rider looking. But yeah, it's interesting. It's just because we're so used to seeing the character from the shows, and like they're never gonna age on the videos, but the videos are like decades old at this point,
Right. It's like
right?
that
So
and
so it's
Ryu
like
like
the Feist thing kind of works because like one Takumi, yeah, he's aged, but he hasn't aged that much, and two is like he had like long hair and then he had short hair in some movies, and now he has long hair again, so he looks even more like Takumi used to. And then you see like fucking Shinji, and it's like, okay, I know you've aged, but that haircut is fucking making you look so much more different. Like if he had like old Shinji hair, he'd probably look a lot closer. But Ren, holy fuck, Ren basically same thing as Kickhopper, like barely looks like he's aged. I mean, like I can tell he's older, but that's because I went and watched some old Ryuki shit. I'm like, holy fuck, he used to look so much younger.
pretty much he just
But
didn't
like
spike his hair
Ren
in
looks
as much.
exactly like a, yeah, it's definitely the hair spike, but he looks exactly as you imagine him to look now. Just a little bit older, a little less spiky hair, but yeah, he looks like one of those people who don't age, man. Like him, Otoya, fucking Kickhopper, I guess now, Jiro, kind of.
Jiro didn't seem to age that much from then
Yeah,
to
yeah,
now.
true. But, yeah, especially considering like he started in like Hibiki, right? Like he was in Hibiki and then Kiva and then this. So it's just one of those people who just don't age, which is fucking awesome for them. But then it's real less awesome when you see the other writers who look so different. Like that's what I was like, wait, are these the people like in the Ryuki special when like fucking like Tiger and like all the other one and like what happened? This is not what you look like.
And then you see
And,
Oja.
like, yeah. And then you see like Emperor. I'm like, what the fuck happened? This isn't even your character, and you don't even look like this. But it's
Oja
like,
had that weird old man phase during Xaid.
during X8, it's just a wig.
Well, that's because he hadn't killed anybody in a while.
Yeah,
Is he a Fangar or is he absorbing their blood for life?
yeah, that's what I was thinking. He's a vampire now. Oh man, that's so good. You know what? To be fair, it doesn't even work. He just thinks it works.
He's getting a placebo effect.
Yeah. Goro-chan's cooking brought his hair back to life. Oh man, so good. So fucking stupid. Oh, that also, like Goro-chan, like that guy, like he's aged definitely from like Ryuki, but like he hasn't aged that much, and he's been in a ton of fucking tokusatsu shit, right? Like yeah, I can tell he's older, but like he's aged really well. Whereas you look at Kitawa and it's like, oh yeah, you're dead. Like you're just coming back because like your kids are into Rider now, and like you've definitely aged, right? Whereas like Goro-chan is like, oh yeah, you've aged a little bit, but like for the most part, you're still holding it together. Like Shinji's boss, he's aged a little bit, but again, like he was an older guy, a little bit older to begin with, but like he's aged pretty well too.
Yeah, he
Like
didn't. He looked different, but that's just because he was older.
Right, plus like a slightly different haircut. But yeah, I mean, like he looks like the thing is, some people look like you would think they would look, like Ren and like Shinji's boss and like Takumi and stuff like that. And then you get to like characters where it's like, what the hell is going on? So that's always interesting. Yeah, I mean, like it's probably interesting because like we've never had this happen for Heisei writers, where it's like, yeah, we've seen like the Showa guys, but like none of us have really seen the Showa shows, and we don't have nostalgia for like the guys looking like that because like that was decades ago. Of course they're gonna look different now, right? like Heisei, we think it was recently, but it's been almost like fucking 20 years, right?
Right.
Like 15, 20 years. So it's like, oh, then reality catches up when these guys show up.
And then you see,
Right.
Mr. Kamen Rider himself, and it's like, yeah, you've aged really
Oh,
fucking
man.
well.
Kind of.
I mean, he has given everything that he's been through
Yeah, it's true.
since then.
I mean, considering he started like as a suit actor for Super One in the Kamen Rider Black movie or something. So he's been doing it for like fucking since the 80s,
Well, I
right?
sorry, I meant a different Mr. Kamen Rider. I literally meant the original Kamen Rider.
Oh, you're
Oh,
talking
we
about
thought you meant the suit actor.
No,
yeah,
no,
that's
no.
his nickname. You're talking about Hongo.
Yeah,
Yeah, like Hongo's interesting because like he's pretty famous in Japan, so like there's always something of him going around. So like you always see like fuck man, he had like the Sega Saturn ads, so we already knew how he looked. And him coming back. So the thing is like I never have any illusions of like Hongo's not gonna look like himself from the 70s. Right? Because like he's a big enough guy, you always know what he looks like. Like he's in a fucking movie with Zernos' actor. Right? What the hell? Like it's like a fighting game movie or something like that. He's like in a movie recently. I saw like a poster of it. I'll see if I can find it. You guys keep talking.
But yeah, we thought you were talking about Seiji Taikawa, who has been the suit actor for every like main Kamen Rider since Agito, with the exception of Hibiki, and he also has done like certain past riders like Rider Man.
except for the one time Gatakta did it, or Gakta did it.
Right. He was Rider Man Black during Black RX, but yeah, with the exception of Hibiki, he's been the exception of like Kuga and Hibiki, he's been the main rider for like the entire Heisei era.
No, since we got a little off topic, there's one thing I want to mention about this episode that makes absolutely no goddamn sense.
What's up?
Why was Zi-O sent to take out the meteor?
Right.
You have a rider-
You have a rider that can control fucking space.
Right? His rider could literally teleport you somewhere else. Right? This is the most Kabuto thing ever. Why did we not send that guy? Also, I found the thing. So it's basically Hongo and Xernos in what the hell? They're I guess it was for the King of Fighters mobile game, like All-Star mobile game. So maybe they did like a trailer or something for it. It's weird. They're in there. Whatever. I mean, like Xernos looks fucking badass. But anyway.
So while out looking for another Kabuto, Sogo and Waz are approached by Punch Hopper, who pleads to them like, "Hey, I don't like seeing my brother in pain like this. Will you help me?" And so Sogo's like, "Yeah, sure." And Waz is like, "Dude, this is obviously a trap." And Sogo's like, "You should trust people more."
And then it's a trap.
Yeah, but Sogo knew it was a trap, so at least he planned for it.
Right, that's where it gets dumb. Like, so they go to the place, and then Punch Hopper goes to attack Sogo, and Kagami jumps in and saves him. Is like, calls Sogo an idiot for falling for the trap, and then Punch Hopper's like, "This was a trap for you," and another Kabuto shows up. And then Waz shows up in his Ginga form, like, all ready to take out another Kabuto, like, "Hey, this was a good idea, Sogo." And Sogo's just like, "Yeah, I know." It's like, what the fuck is happening right now? Who is this guy that is pretending to be Sogo?
Right,
like he knows
Who
anything that's
is
going
this-
the fuck on.
Right, who is this worm that has replaced himself with Sogo?
Oh my god, that would make so much more sense. Sogo just died when he went into that hole full of worms. This is another one. Oh, fuck. Holy shit. We're just throwing out all the plot twists and good ideas this episode. um, yeah. That was interesting. I'm like, wow, everybody grew a couple brain cells this episode, but I'm like, it's weird. Like, I'm like, it's nice, but I'm like, why didn't you guys act like this throughout the rest of the show? And then they send him off to fight off the giant meteor.
Instead
And
of
I'm like, okay, there goes the like equivalency. You couldn't be too smart episode. I guess you had to balance out the stupid somehow.
like
Uh,
Sugo being intelligent here is to me along the same lines of why was Sugo able to whoop Gates' ass back in the O's episode?
Sorry, say
yeah,
that again.
like it's one of those weird things where it's like Sugo continues to be shown to be smart, and I'm like, yeah, this Sugo I can see turning into a Mazio. Because it's like, oh, here he says like, oh, I'm just trying to, save that guy.
Um,
But like, it's also like if Omazio was here, it'd be like, yeah, of course I knew it's a trap. I'm gonna fucking murder you all anyway, right? Like, you could easily see him turning into Omazio doing shit like this down the line. So it would have been interesting if we had this Sogo throughout the show, but like we don't. He
um,
just goes from I want to be king, like an idiot, running around saying that, to hey, I'm generic good guy writer now, to hey, I actually have a brain, but that might mean I could turn evil later down the line, which is interesting, but like that rarely shows up.
since Rai happened to miss it, I said Sugo being smart here is basically along the same lines of why was Sugo able to whoop Gates' ass back in the O's episode? It's that you have shown none of this ability. What the fuck?
Right? And it's like, yeah, like I felt like he should have been able to beat Gates because Gates was running on emotion, and
But
Suga should have been just like calculated, and that would have been like a hint of like, oh, Suga acts like a dumbass, but if it comes down to it, like he could be a real threat. Like if they went for that
uh,
feeling in that episode, it would have made sense. But it was more like, oh, I have to win this
like
episode.
if they had continued that idea further on, then I would have accepted that. But he's shown to be just a complete jackass.
I would have also accepted Tsukiyomi's heel turn if Soga was acting like that.
Yeah, Tsukuyomi's heel turn was something that bothered me because she suddenly became afraid of Sogo, very unprovoked. Like, oh hey, Sogo's getting stronger. That must mean he's going to become the Demon King and we should kill him.
Like the only close explanation for that would be, hey, White Walls wrote in the notebook and we didn't see it.
That's such a bullshit cop out.
Oh,
Reason.
absolutely.
Like I don't. It could
Absolutely.
happen, but I don't. But the thing is, it's more like he can. Well, it's questionable. I guess technically he could just be like Tsukiyomi grows more paranoid, and it might happen. And
Tien
then
has the
everything
book
just
though.
Well,
We're
not
talking before
Yeah.
that.
before that.
No,
Like
before.
when she first when White Walls first showed up,
Oh gosh.
and they're like, "Hey, we're Tsukiyomi's gonna try to kill Sugo now."
When Sogo got Zi-O 2 and he first like saw the future, Tsukuyomi suddenly like just immediately betrayed him.
I mean, maybe it's a okay. Benefit of the doubt. This is highly unlikely.
Okay.
Let's say it's a Kabuto situation of they put in a kill switch, and like Schwartz put it in. It's like if Sugo ever gets to this point, like Tsukiyumi would immediately go, okay, I have to end him now. She doesn't know why. It's just one of the like subliminal messaging that Schwartz put inside of her brain or trained her to have, and it's part of like her false memories. We are way overthinking this. I'm way overthinking
Yeah.
this. It's highly unlikely. I mean, it could happen if the show was more interesting, but
Yeah, honestly,
decade.
I did like that moment of Sogo actually being smart, but like you guys said, it's just too. There are just too few examples of that to make him seem like Mazio potential. Like thinking back, Emu had more moments where he seemed like Mazio potential, just being like the cunning
That's so true.
gamer,
Like,
not giving a damn about
and
things.
it doesn't help that it's immediately bookended by a very dumbass decision. Because it literally went from, hey, we're going to have some really smart intelligence. I'm going to go do the dumb thing.
Well, to be fair, like Waz tells him to go and do the dumb thing. He's like, "Hey, I'll handle this, Demon Lord. You go take that out." And to be fair, it makes sense for Waz because in Waz's eyes, like Zi-O can do no wrong, pretty much.
Right.
He's like, "Of course, my Demon Lord will be the savior of the world, right?" So in his mind, like, yeah, he'll do it.
Which makes
Like
sense.
Amazi,
But Waz
but it's a dumbass decision.
mainly because Waz has shown to be at least intelligent enough to not put Sugo in a situation that he can't handle, because there's been a few times he's pulled him out of situations because of that.
Yeah. Decade, any thoughts on this? You've been quiet for a while. I mean, you've been trying to talk and we've been cutting you off.
No, not really. I kind of stood my thoughts, but the fight was pretty good.
Yeah, so one thing that was really cool was Waz does this weird planet finisher on another Kabuto, right? And so he blows up, like, as the Nether Riders do, but then standing underneath is his kick hopper form already henshined. Like, oh, that's good. And then he does his rider kick on Waz to escape.
Like,
Yeah, that was so fucking good. I love how it like cuts and then you like. There's a lot of really good shots in this, especially that like he's standing and then you see like the like gasoline or whatever burning. So it's like the fire is real. You see it slowly creeping forward, and like Punch Hopper stands up. That was so badass. There's like so many shots. There's like the part where like it cuts back to like Punch Hopper like earlier on, and then like he henshins and stuff like that, or like gets his like Zector. And things like that. And I was like, oh, these are like very Kabuto-esque shots, but man, this episode's been shot really nicely.
like that scene alone for me answered the question that I had been wondering for a while. What would happen if a secondary character got turned into another rider?
He takes full advantage of it.
Right. It's like, and it especially with the fact that, they're jackassholes throughout most of Kabuto from what I've seen. It makes sense that this would be the route that this would go.
And while the suits have different functions, Clock Up is still Clock Up, so he knows how to use another Kabuto fairly well.
Right, which is one of those interesting things of like, in the show, Kick and Punch Hopper don't have clock up. Like technically they're in Kabuto, so everybody should have clock up. Like they have it in the Decade stuff, they have it in the movies.
And he
But they
was
don't have it in the show.
he was the
He
bee
was the
for a
bee.
while, so
Right,
and
both
he
of them were.
mastered the bee, so he knows how to use Clock Up.
Right, exactly. I mean, like both of them were Zabi, so like yeah, it makes sense how they know how to use it. But like, man, that shot was so fucking good. But then again, like that's the coolest thing about Kickhopper is like he has such amazing fucking shots because that suit is so damn good. With like all the angles, like you just have to tilt like the suit, like have him stand at an angle and just like shoot it with the camera like slightly low. Like it looks fucking amazing all the time. I also love how it's like, oh, right, the power of Kabuto is time and space, and like Kickhopper is like, yeah, I never had any of that fucking power. All I have is the power of hell. That was so good, man.
And like I know I kept saying like, oh, I'm sick of Rider versus Rider, but this is what the show was missing in early on. Like it needed this kind of content.
Right. I mean, it's mostly because like standard Rider versus Rider is just a power showcase of like, hey, look at my flashy thing versus your flashy thing. Whereas this is like you feel the gravity of the situation. It's like, oh right, Waz just used this. They pulled something else out, and like Waz can't do anything. Also, the stream just dropped. I'm getting no
Oh,
data. Oh, it's back on. Weird.
Like this is the reverse of what they did with, well, not so much the reverse, but kind of along the same lines that they did with another fours and another fives. Just better.
Yeah, to be honest, like Gates's like Vice suit was so fucking nice. Like I forgot how nice that thing looked.
one of the best Nether Rider, one of the best like Rider armor suits.
Yeah, it looks so nice. And then like Gates is used as his like speed form. Like that's pretty nice too. So, like Gates got really nice suits. He barely got anything to do in this episode though.
Yeah. Uh, so cut to space where Sogo uses the Forze watch to rocket his way through the meteor to break it up into small chunks that will either mostly burn up in the atmosphere or just become small enough that if they are big enough to still cause damage, the military could shoot it down with missiles. So, problem solved, right? Wrong. Nope, there's a bigger meteor behind it.
I love that reveal. I'm like, first I'm like, okay, you're using the Forze thing. So you'd probably just drill through. Nope, I'm gonna fucking turn it into rocket form and go exhaust side first. I'm like, what? I'm like,
Yeah,
oh, he's
that's how
rider
he does
kicking
the
it?
rider kick. That's how he does the
I'm
rider
like,
kick.
it was so stupid. And then like revealed, oh, that kind of worked. And then like, no, there's a bigger meteor and it's fucking red. I'm like, what the? Did we just enter into a fucking Ultraman episode? Like, what the hell is going on? That was that was pretty great.
I saw a movie
Um,
like this once. I didn't see how it ended though.
uh, nice. Yeah. So I feel like the one issue is like, oh, right, like only the Space Riders can beat this. I'm like, what happened to all the Sentai teams? Right? Like being lazy again, I see. Um, like everybody gives Riders so much shit whenever a giant monster comes out. It's like, oh, it's fine. The Sentai team will handle it. Like, first of all, Riders handle giant monsters fine. Second of all, when shit like this happens and Sentai teams don't show up, I'm like, what the fuck were you doing? Right? Right? Like it's a giant meteor crashing towards it. Like literally, this is the one of the few things your dumbass mech should be ready to shoot down any.
I think the Deca Rangers literally blew up like a meteor-sized missile once.
Shit. And the other thing is, I'm like, okay, there's a couple writers who could fucking deal with this no problem. Like, okay, no, fuck that. There's clearly one who could easily deal with it. His power up was last episode, right? Because Kiva kicks the fucking.
He
Like
kicks the what?
one rider, he kicks the moon back into orbit, like it was gonna crash into the planet, and Kiva just fucking rider back into orbit because the final villain is basically pushing, like dragging the moon down and about to make it crash.
We
Um,
we're like we got the like whole hint that like, oh hey, the Kagami like isn't in the same timeline as like Kabuto takes place because the meteor didn't kill Shibuya like it should have, which kickstarts all of Kabuto's events. So I think this is
Right.
setting up a Godspeed Love ending.
So what? Like Kabuto went so fast, he went past the damn. Took a piece of the meteor and crashed it into Shibuya, but the rest of the meteor is crashing now.
Like, okay, let me explain. Right, so in Kabuto, in the series, the meteor crashes into Shibuya and, causes all that damage. But then in Godspeed Love, you find out that, like, okay, so the meteor crashed and it destroyed everything and created, like, an apocalypse, right? And then at the end of the movie, when the second meteor shows up, Kabuto hyper hyper clock ups the meteor into the past, so that the two meteors collide and create a smaller meteor that is the one from the original series. So what if this meteor here is like the original one that creates the Godspeed Love movie?
That would be pretty awesome if we're acknowledging that. Also, it was red. I'm like, what is this? The Red Dwarf? Like, what are you crashing to Rider now?
It's red because
but-
the watch is on it.
Yeah, that's what I'm like. Oh, it's painted red, just like Kabuto. No,
It is Kabuto.
no, it's dark Kabuto.
It's Tendo's ego.
No, not big enough.
To be fair, there's no chance Kabuto, like Tendo's gonna show up. Like, one, because he's fucking blacklisted, right? Because he made his own agency.
That's what I've been asking. Like, in the next episode preview, there's no way that's Tendo in the Kabuto suit, right?
Yeah, there's no chance. Like, Kabuto's suit might show up. It might do the point.
Yeah,
and,
the
like, save the
Kabuto
day.
suit is gonna show up. Like, I think the Zector chooses a different user.
Oh, fuck that. That is not possible. Like, the whole point of the Kabuto Zector is it chose Tendo. Like, that's nonsense. Like, Zabi, sure. Kabuto, that's bullshit.
Like, let me put it like this. The name of the next episode is Kabuto's Chosen One.
Right. Kabuto's chosen one is fucking Tendo. So the problem becomes, it's like, okay, I get it, Zabi can do that, but like, I don't... Yeah, I get it. They're doing the Hibiki thing of like, oh, we can't ever get these actors back, so we're gonna switch over to another actor.
Gonna make it
And
someone
make it, like-
else's. Oh
Yeah,
god,
make
what
it
if that's
somebody else.
Kick Hopper?
Oh my god, that'd
No
be
way.
fucking amazing. That would
No
be
way.
such an insane thing. Go ahead, Nick.
Here's why Tendo couldn't show up. He was covering for Soichi while he went to Japan.
Oh my... yeah, he's in France cooking. Holy shit. He just lent the Kabuto Zector, like he lent the Hyper Clock Up Zector thing to attack in that Godspeed. No. He didn't lend him Hyper Clock Up thing. He went to the future, made a weird time duplicate, and allowed Gattack to have Hyper Clock Up in that Hyper Battle DVD. That was such nonsense. Anyway, Bashi, go ahead.
There's a third option. This is
what is that? Original Kabuto?
No. There is Kabuto, and there is Tendo, but in this world, Tendo is somebody else.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so he's the Kabuto of another Earth. Okay.
Yeah, like that, which would fit, I guess, with that whole wibbly wobbly timey wimey and Shibuya wasn't destroyed.
Do you want to hear another more interesting one? It's the Kabuto from the Decade alternate timeline, where he's always stuck in clock up. So he only shows up to save the day because he's constantly stuck up in clock.
Wait,
Like,
didn't they
can't-
fix that?
Did he? I don't know. I don't remember. All I remember is like, yeah, he was just stuck in clock up all the time. Yeah. Those are interesting. Holy shit, if it's fucking Kick Hopper, that'd be so
It's
insane.
Kick Hopper. Oh, the heel turn.
To be fair, like, the whole point of like Kick Hopper and Kabuto's rivalry was like, Kabuto is the chosen one. Kick Hopper just wanted to act like the super nice guy, but underneath he was just doing it to show off. Right, like he's one of the first rivals that Kabuto ever has because he's almost as good as Kabuto, except he's fake. Right, he's doing it because he thinks that's what people want to see, and he's using that as his way of like being like, "Oh, I'm the good boss." You know, people like me, but it's all just a show. Whereas like Tendo is no show, but he's actually good.
This is like
So
his
it's
redemption.
Maybe, like that would be fucking awesome.
Like, that would be cool though to see him
I mean,
like abandon being another Kabuto to become Kabuto.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. Oh, you know what would be the most amazing one? It's fucking Attack, which doesn't make any sense, but it just
It,
finally completes his arc of like he's no longer the sidekick.
and the whole thing with at the beginning of Kabuto, he's like, "No, I'm gonna be Kabuto." Who's
Right,
that
like-
fucker?
Right, right. Yeah.
Kagami tried to do it.
Tried to do it, but the belt, the Zector flew away.
Like, because Kagami has all these insecurities about himself at the start of Kabuto, that's why he latches on to Tendo so hard, because Tendo is so confident and so skilled. He's like, I want to be like that. I want to learn how to be you.
Which is why he
Right,
wasn't
and
chosen.
Exactly, and then like later on, he's like, "Fuck you, Tendo. You're full of shit." Like I'm gonna do it my way. You're kind of an asshole. I'm gonna save people. And then he becomes the god of war, Kamen Rider Attack. And if you think I'm joking, no, that is actually fucking Attack's title.
If you think he's joking, go watch Kabuto.
Like you'd have to be like later on in Kabuto to figure out what the hell I'm talking about.
Yeah, specifically the second half of Kabuto, when they made their main rider so strong they couldn't make a villain to fight him.
Yeah, that's the weird thing. Like Kabuto is pretty busted in his own show, but like compared to like recent writer villains, like he could actually fight villains that would give him like maybe it's not maybe a challenge, but at least be on like even power
I
level
would
because
pay
like
to see a movie where Kabuto fights Kronos.
right. But my thinking is like oh that's just another like another Godspeed Love fight. So I'm like, oh, it's probably just a repeat of that, but it'd be fucking interesting. I'd love to see him fight Evolt and kick Evolt's shit. Right? Like, just fucking end him. Right? Oh, you think you're the destroyer of worlds? Like, yeah, fucking have you met me? You know? Right?
Right.
Right? Like, honestly, like, I would. Like, normally I'm not into Kabuto just, like, fucking running over people because that kind of gets boring. But, like, Evolt's one of those people where I'm like, I need to see him get his shit kicked in.
Alright. So, thanks for joining us today, everybody. This was a really long one, but it's been a long time since all of us have been together to talk like this. We'll be back on Tuesday for more Ryu Soldier, and next Wednesday to finish off the Kabuto section of Kamen Rider Zi-O. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you guys next time.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, everyone, and we'll catch you next time.